to part 3 of the Lunch Hour Sew Along with Kimberbell. My name is Kim, and today we are doing part 3 of the Sweet Land of Liberty Sew Along. Take a look at this pillow. How cute is that? So in parts 1, we talked about how to do your background quilting all in the hoop so that when you are done with this pillow, yeah, there we go. When you are done, it is fully done because it's been quilted as you went along on the embroidery machine. So we talked about this cherry block right here, and then part 2, we actually talked about piecing in the hoop and then quilting on top of that. So we did this block as part 2, and then today part 3, the final in this series. We are talking about that inner border and the flange border. Again, if you are new to this, it's not too late to jump in. You can still get this design and all of the files that go with it at kimberbell.com. Just click on products, then go to digital downloads, and there you're going to see Sweet Land of Liberty. If you want to do the background quilting, it is an option, and that is also available at kimberbell.com. You can find it at products, then background quilting, and look up all the designs that we used for Sweet Land of Liberty background quilting files. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing today, is showing you how to do this flange border, and it is so easy. You're going to love it. So what you're going to want to make sure and have is the Kimberbell light mesh cutaway stabilizer. That's what we use when embroidering borders. You can also use the Kimberbell's ultra lightweight mesh stabilizer. Either one of them will be just great for this type of project. You're not adding extra stuff to it like appliques, so either one would work for that. And then I have pre-cut my borders. Now, if you want to keep them all long in one length and just continue with the one length and then cut it to size after you've sewn all your pieces together for the front of your pillow, you certainly could do that as well. So today I'm going to show you how I could do this same border even with a 5x7. Here we go. Nope, there we go. Even with a 5x7 hoop. Isn't that cool to think about? Is that because of the way the Kimberbell background quilting files are digitized, you will never have to line anything up, and everything looks like it just blends together. You don't really see where one starts and one line area stops. It just all blends, and it makes it so easy to do. So whether you have a small hoop, like the 5x7 that I'm going to show you today how to do this, or even a large hoop like a 9x14 hoop, you can do these background quilting designs, and it's all going to look the same no matter what hoop size you have. Pretty awesome stuff. All right, so if you're following along in the instructions for Sweet Land of Liberty, we're now getting to the part where we want to quilt our inner border and our flange border, okay, outer border. So look with me on page 35, where it says border and flange, and there it tells you the measurements to cut. Again, if you want to wait and cut your length afterwards, that's totally up to you. And then here is some instructions for the block by block quilting. Now this again is sold separately, so if you're not using background quilting designs, you can just go ahead and sew these strips on as is, and then you would take it to like a long arm quilter who could do it for you. Or if you have one yourself, that's great too. But we wanted to share with you which designs we used for the inner border and the flange. So you would find that right here. They both come in the same download. This inner border 1-inch design says Sweet Land of Liberty all the way across it. Sweet Land of Liberty, Sweet Land of Liberty. And then in that same file is a coordinating outer border that comes in 2-inch width, 3, 4, 5, and 6-inch widths. So you can use it for all kinds of things, as you can imagine. And we are going to be using the 2-inch width for this flange today. And you can see that it's product number KDQ113. I'm going to pull that up on my machine here in just a minute. Now the other thing to know is this. It says follow the quilting instructions provided with the purchase border design. All right, well, let's talk about that for a minute. when you go to download any of our background quilting designs at Kimberbell, you will also have a PDF download to also print. Let's take a closer look at this right here. So the very front page is going to show you what designs come in it. So this is our 1-inch Sweet Land of Liberty border, and then we've got the one with the pies and the flowers and all the things, watermelon and such. And as you can see across here, it's showing you all the different widths that this border design comes in, all right? So for example, let's look, we're going to end up using the 2-inch width. So I want to show you this 2-inch area. The themes that I'm going to show today work for both the inner border as well as that outer border. So same technique, all right? But I'm going to show you that outer border, which we call the flange border right now. And that is, you can see that it comes in a 2-inch width, 2x7, okay? And 3-inch widths, 4-inch widths, 5-inch widths, 6-inch widths. It's all there, even the 1-inch width, right? For Sweet Land of Liberty. But you're going to notice a second number right after that 2-inch, and that says 2x7. The next says 2x10, the next says 2x12, and the next says 2x14. I want you to think about that here for a minute. If you're new to doing background quilting with Kimberbell and doing borders, this is what I want you to know. Yes, they all come in the different widths, 1 to 6-inch widths, because those are the most common widths of borders, right? But the length is determined by the size of hoop you have. All right, so I said that it came in 2x7, 2x7, 2x10, 2x12, and 2x14. Which one am I going to use when I want to use a 5x7 hoop? I'm going to use the 2x7 because that is the length of the hoop. So what that second number means is just think about what your length of your hoop is, and that's the file you would choose. All right? So it really doesn't matter. You could even combine, lengths if you wanted to, but the bigger length you have, a size of hoop you have, the less hoopings you're going to have to do, right? It just makes sense. But if you have just a 5x7, we want you to be able to do this too. So that is really good news. You can still do all of these really fun, beautiful borders with a 5x7 hoop, okay? So if I had a 6x10 hoop, then I would choose the 2x10 file in this case. If I had an 8x12 hoop, I would choose the 2x12, and if I had a 9x14 hoop, I would choose the 2x14. Makes sense, right? So I have a 5x7 here. That's what I'm going to use. That's what I'm going to pull up on my machine. Now, the second page of your instructions, again, this is in the same download. Let's go ahead and get a closer look at this. The second page is going to have a batting chart, okay, or a chart that tells you what the name of the file is and all the things. Okay, so if I'm looking at here, I'm going to go down to the fabric cut width. Whoop. I knew I cut those flange borders. Again, I'm looking at the outer border, that blue border. I cut that width at 2.5 inches. All right. So because I'm using the 2x7 file, let's go over here. See, it's the file name. It's 2x7 because I have a 7-inch length hoop. I am going to cut my batting size at 2.5 by 8 inches. All right, so I have already pre-cut my batting. Now, if you want to just eyeball this, totally okay. You don't have to go exactly by these instructions. This just gives you, a guideline. But if I go to stitch this out and I just want to lay a piece of batting down, as long as it's larger than the square that's about to stitch out that you're going to see here in a minute, you're golden. You're good to go, all right? But I am following instructions. I am following the chart, and I already cut these out at 2.5 by 8-inch lengths. All right. So because I'm using the 2x7 file, I'm going to pull up the 2x7 file on my machine. Let's skip a page to where it says first hooping. All right. there it has more instructions step by step on what to do the first time you go to place this fabric down. Whoop, right there. First hooping. Once you've done that first hooping, you're going to continue the instructions as outlined under the next page, which says additional hoopings. Easy enough, right? And then you follow those. It's almost identical to what you did in the first hooping. There's just a little change. If you want to, you can certainly use the instructions as your guide. Or you can just watch me do it here and see how easy it is to do background quilting for your borders. All right. I am going to follow the guide so that you can also follow the guide and me at the same time. And before you know it, my friends, we will have a quilted border. All right. Now, as I said before, I'm using a 5x7 hoop. If I wanted to, especially if I had like a larger hoop, I might put more than one of these strips down at the same time. I could just like keep adding strips all the way across the width of my hoop, just to, help out with the stabilizer situation. Today, I'm just going to show you one length at a time and not worry about showing you a whole bunch of them. That only applies if you have larger hoops that would want to take advantage of that. All right, so it said in the instructions that I would needed the 2x7 file, okay? So let's go over here to this camera. I pulled up the design here, and I can see all of my background quilting designs right here. And I'm gonna choose KDQ 113, it's the border, okay. Then there's embroidery files and instructions. I'm gonna click on embroidery files. Now you have two different types of quilting here. You have the block by block method and you have the clear blue tiles method. Both are used for different purposes, and you can find out the differences, on our YouTube channel. But in this instance, because I did the rest of this in block by block quilting, I'm just going to keep with the same theme. I'm going to do block by block quilting with these borders. I think is the easiest way to do them, especially because I did the rest of that method with this pillow. The reason why I did block by block is because on the rest of this is because I wanted my background quilting to be behind my appliques. If I wanted to quilt on top, like an all over design, I could certainly use the cleared blue tiles method. But today, we're doing block by block. So let's go back here. I'm choosing block by block. And then the format is PES on this particular machine. And then remember what size I wanted, the 2x7. So I want you to see all the different designs you're getting with the one download here and all the different sizes. But 2x7 is the one I am looking for. So I'm going to click on 2x7 and hit set and embroidery, and I'm ready to go. Okay, so now if you're looking at your instructions that were part of the download, I am on the first hooping, all right, and I have already placed my lightweight stabilizer, cutaway stabilizer, and I am going to stitch this out onto the machine. All right, let's see, I think what I'll do, I'm going to change thread colors real quick because I want you to see this a little bit better on camera, so give me just a minute. The first step that's going to stitch out is the placement outline for my batting. Okay, it's just going to stitch a rectangle, and here we go. So that has stitched the rectangle directly on my stabilizer. Now I'm going to lay a piece of batting. We're on step 1B. over the top of that. Okay, just want to make sure the entire area is covered. And then I'm going to place a couple pieces of tape so it doesn't shift. And then it's going to stitch what we call the batting tack down line, which is step 1C in your instructions. So now, as you can see, it's going to have a little extra batting, and we want to actually cut away that extra stuff so that it doesn't end up in our seams. All right. So to do that, I'm just going to take my duckbill scissors here and just quickly cut right up against that line. All right, now take a look at your instructions. And the next step it's going to be is the fabric placement line, and it's going to go right across, well, it's going to go on each side of the length of this about 1/4 inch. Once we've done that, I'm going to roll some tape, some paper tape right on the top and right on the bottom, and you'll see why here in just a moment. All right, so as you can see, it did that 1/4 inch on both sides. See if that's a little better. And then now I'm gonna roll that tape to go at the top and the bottom. And just like you roll tape, just as easy as that. Just gonna roll it up, place one on the top. Again, this is outside of the batting placement line. This is right directly on top of the stabilizer itself, because this is going to help hold it in place while we do the next step, which is a tack down stitch. So it says in the directions to place the border fabric about 1/2 inch beyond this line. I would say 1/4 inch would still be just fine, but you know, just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact. You just want to make sure that's taped into place right there, okay? And then you're going to place this. Of course, the right side is facing up. In this fabric, the right side and the wrong side look the same, so not a problem there. But if you had a different fabric, you'd want to make sure the right side was facing up, of course. And then I'm going to make sure that when I go to place this down, it's not going this way, right? It's got to just line up right against those lines that were stitched. And then remember, the bottom we had paper tape rolled up. That's perfect, because we want this to stay in place at the bottom, all right? And then you're going to have this tail continuing to flap right here at the end. Not a big deal, because we have a 5x7 hoop. We're going to re-hoop this when this is done, and you'll never be able to see where it stopped and ended. It's going to be awesome. All right, so I'm going to place this back onto the machine, and at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch my thread only because I want you to see this tack down line next, and then I'm going to keep this thread color the same for the quilting as well. All right. So right now what's going to happen is it's a tack down line that goes along the long edges of this design. If you're following in the PDF, I am on step 2C. 2C. All right? Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So now that that is tacked down along the long sides, we are ready for the final step, which is to do that fun quilting. I'm using a light blue thread. I could have used, well, white I think would be pretty too, but I just wanted it a little more subtle, but still bright enough that I would see it on that dark fabric. So I'm going to use a light blue. And don't worry about these stitches being taken out later. They will be sewn into your seam. So there's no need to be concerned about those long tack down lines. You will never see it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do my first portion of the quilting. Oh my goodness. You are going to be so thrilled with this. Oh my gosh, it is just too cute for words, you guys. Look at that. Look at that. So much fun. Let's get an up close here because wow. Okay, there. Oh my gosh. That is just too cute. You know, I could see doing this besides a border for like this pillow. Wouldn't that be so cute to add a design like that to like the hem of a tea towel? Wouldn't that be so cute? What about the hem of a little girl's dress? That would be darling. You could do that. You could do that. with this. And in fact, if you did do that, you would want to use the clear blue tiles method to do that. So much fun. You wouldn't want to use block by block quilting. If you're adding it to like a tea-towel, the hem of a dress, something like that, maybe the hem of an apron, use clear blue tiles method on the same download, all the same download. All right, so the next step, let's turn to page 5 where it says additional hoopings. What we're going to do is pop this out of the hoop, and then we're going to trim away this extra stabilizer. You can see why, if you have larger hoops, you'd want to put like several strips across in one hooping, just to help with the stabilizer, but either way, it's going to look fantastic in the end. All right, so I'm just trimming away the extra, and then we will start this process again, just with one tiny little change, as I'll show you here in a minute. Okay, all right, done. But we have the rest of this, right? We've got to finish this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our lightweight cutaway stabilizer again, right there. And hoop it in the 5x7 hoop. And then we start this process again with one exception, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is stitch the batting placement line, and we'll go from there. Okay, now that that line's been stitched out, it's that same rectangle as before. I'm going to place the batting, the oversized piece of batting on top, and then it's going to stitch our tack down line. Okay, now it's time to remove this extra batting, so let's do that. Again, the way this is digitized, the reason why we do this is because we don't want batting in those seams. So, therefore, we cut it. All right, you remember what's next? We are going to stitch the placement line for the fabric. Okay, if you're following along, we are on step 2A. It's going to stitch 1/4 inch along the long sides, right? And then we're going to place a piece of rolled tape at the top and the bottom, and then I'll show you how this is done just a little bit different, just a tad different from what we did before with that first hooping. All right. So it's probably hard to see here, but I've got an outline, a 1/4 inch outline along the long sides of this. And I'm going to place my tape here and here. So let's do that. Okay. All right. Now, remember how we had taken this before and we said, oh, let's place it a 1/2 inch beyond that? Well, you don't want to do that at this point. What you want to do is actually fold this in half with the right sides together. So this quilted part already is done, but we need to quilt this still. So what I want you to do is to fold it on top of itself, and it will just naturally do that because the end of your batting from the first hooping is right there, okay? So boom, fold it on top of itself, and then you line up that fold, this fold, to the top of this line where the batting ended, okay? So once again, the batting's right here at the top, and then you lay it right up against that line. See that? Right there. Whoop, right there. Okay, and once I've done that, the reason why there's tape is because we're going to unfold it, lay it down, and the tape is going to grab the rest of that quilting area, right? And then, just like we did before, we're going to lay this fabric down and just run it right along that stitch line, that outer stitch line. And because we have tape at the bottom, this makes sense, right? Okay, let's see what this looks like. That's not going to go anywhere. You've got tape at the top, you've got tape at the bottom. We're ready to quilt this next area. First, though, it's going to do the tack down lines along the long sides. Again, that will be sewn in to the seam, so you don't have to worry about removing it. And then it will finish off with the quilting. Okay, so it did one long tack down line, and now it's going to move over to do the second tack down line. Okay, so I'm not going to remove this from the hoop. I just want to go right into the quilting, but there you can see it tacked it down. Now let's quilt the rest of this. While that's quilting, let's talk about this inner border. Again, this one says Sweet Land of Liberty. Right there. Sweet Land of Liberty. And that is one that I think would be great to do, you know, for all kinds of projects for sure. It comes in the 1-inch border width on this same download, okay, the same coordinating one that goes with what I'm stitching right now. And let's talk about what size you would use. You cut your fabric strips, as the download tells you, to 1.5 inches wide. So think with me here. If I'm cutting a 1.5 inch border strip, and let's say I have a 9x14 hoop, which file name am I going to pull up on the machine? 1x14, right? Because the length of the hoop is what I'm going to get, and the finished width from 1.5 to 1 is the 1x14. Think about this. If you have a 6x10 hoop out there, which hoop are you going to choose for that inner border? 1x10. Easy, right? And once that just like starts to sink in, it just makes perfect sense. And you'll start seeing all the possibilities of what you can do with Kimberbell's background quilting files. I can't wait to show you this because look at how just seamless this looks. Oh, let's get this up close picture here. In fact, well, let me pop it out of the hoop. Let's do that. And we're gonna trim it up. And then I want you to look at this border and go, wow, you really didn't have to line anything up because it just flows so nicely from one hooping to the next. So again, I'm just cutting away the extra batting, or not batting, stabilizer. Okay. And there we go. All right, now let's take a look at that. Do you see how that just flows? Unbelievable. It's just so pretty, and it just looks like you did one after the other. And when it's all said and done, you're not going to be able to go, oh, that's where there was a break. You'd have to really be searching long and hard for it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It flows so well. Kudos to our digitizing team for making that happen. All right, so that's all there is to it. You would just continue this process. We still have a little tail end left. Just continue it. Now think about this. Say you have a 9x14 hoop, right? I would always start with the largest hoop you have. The larger the hoop, the less hoopings you have to do, right? So you could do this. You'd go, okay, yeah, 9x14, but maybe you did that in one hooping of 9x14, but then you think, well, I only have this much left. The best thing to do is to now switch to a 5x7 hoop, maybe in this case, because there's no need to continue a 9x14 hooping for just this amount of space that's left. So use the hoop that would best fit with the remaining area that still needs to be hooped. The beautiful thing about these quilting designs is that they're all the same scale. So you're not going to be able to tell that, oh, I used a smaller hoop for this area and a larger hoop for this area. You won't be able to tell. Just start with the largest hoop you have and then finish it up with, as your area to be covered gets smaller, use a smaller hooping. It's going to be less stabilizer, less work, less time, all of it. All right? Beautiful. All right, everyone, thank you for joining me today for part 3 of the Sweet Land of Liberty Sew-Along. I sure hope you enjoyed it. We like to do these every now and then. We call them the lunch hour sew-alongs, and if you want to never miss an episode, then make sure you go to the Kimberbell YouTube channel where you can like this video, and while you're there, subscribe to our videos at YouTube, because then you'll get notifications. You'll know when there's always something new and live that has gone up when you subscribe. So check that out at YouTube. Look up Kimberbell Designs, and there you have it. All right. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.